Welcome, welcome, welcome. You're in the right place at the right time. It must be Tuesday at 5 p.m. And I know you all are trying to figure this out. That is not Miss Fiona, okay? That is my special guest all the way from the country they call Down Under, Australia. Miss Karen, welcome to the show.
Thank you very much. Hi, everyone.
Yes.
Or I should say g'day.
Good day. There you go.
G'day.
Yeah, be
G'day, mate.
comfortable. Let us have what you got. So, for those that have been following and keeping up, Miss Fiona had a death in the family, and she's been dealing with family matters, and she has been on the road going home to Connecticut to deal and be with her family right now. So she will be back, but we are honored and privileged to have Miss Karen with us, filling in, and is also as a scheduled guest. So I'm so honored and privileged. Let me tell y'all about Miss Karen. Miss Karen and I did a recording several months back with one of my co-hosts from the Five Guys and You show, Chocolate Yoda. And we did it a couple of times, and we had such a wonderful time that I found out things about Miss Karen that I said I gotta bring her on my show. She's a little frisky, y'all. She's so frisky. Let me tell you, y'all asked the question, how frisky is she? During the show, the conversation came up, something about some aprons and nothing else attached to a stove. So immediately after the broadcast, Miss Karen sent all of us pictures of someone, we don't know if it was her or not, but someone in an apron standing over a stove. So I was like, my kind of girl. She's like, hey, I love it. So once again, welcome to the show, Miss Karen. Now, after an introduction like that, look at you, you're blushing and everything. See? Yeah.
Thank you. I mean, it's a bit hard to sort of, stack up to that.
Yeah. Well, for those that don't know, Miss Karen is a motivational speaker. She does this professionally in Australia. And I just found out yesterday when we were talking that she's along the coastline where it's always warm and beautiful weather. And I was thinking that that would have been the south part of Australia, but then I found out the south part of Australia is where they have the cold weather at in all four seasons. So she's in the part where, what we would consider in the United States, when you go north, rough weather. But when you go south, beautiful weather. So it's just the opposite there as it is
Yeah.
here. Yeah.
Yeah.
So I learned a lot.
I live in the equivalent of what you guys would refer to as the Caribbean or the Bahamas. So
Right.
it's not too shabby, really. It's a beautiful part of the world. Very hot, very humid, which we know you don't like, Dr. Ron.
I love it. I love it.
You love hot, but not humid.
Yeah, I can take it. I got air conditioning. Yep. I got air conditioning. I got no problem with the air conditioning. Yep.
So what would you like to chat about today? We just kind of left it open and organic.
Well, since you are the special guest and you're from another continent, there's so many things that I don't know about, your home. So whatever you want to go, I'm not, it's not scripted. It's not like a narrative. It ain't like I got a list of 12 questions that you got to answer or anything like that. I don't know, this might turn into a travel brochure for come to Australia before it's over with. But whatever it
Put
turns
another
into,
one on the Barbie.
yeah,
Put another one on
whatever
the
it
Barbie.
turns into, I'm cool with that. One of the things that that I wanted to start out by asking is now, you always hear these stories about Crocodile Dundee. He made being, from Australia, being a part of Australia, very famous. So would you say the area or the part of Australia you live in would be equivalent to some of the things that he talked about in his movie endeavors?
Well, as I understand it, most of his movie was filmed in the Northern Territory, which is the middle part of Australia. Probably some of it was also filmed in North Queensland, which is close to where I'm mid-North Queensland. So if I'm here, obviously it's sits higher than where I'm living. Well, where I live, we have crocodiles, an array of lethal snakes that will knock you out within 20 minutes. You might have 20 minutes to get to a hospital for an antivenom. We have packs of wild dingoes. We have wild boar. You name it. Of course, and then there's sharks. Then there's also box jellyfish, which are lethal in the water. We also have irukandji, which are tiny little jellyfish, but they're also at certain times of the year. So, I mean, I know it sounds so tempting, doesn't it?
Well,
However, to answer your question, there's a lot of truth there isn't actually there's fun exaggeration in the movie. Like as Australians, as Aussies, we have a good chuckle because we can relate. But there's a lot of truth. There's a lot of truth to the movie. Hence why it was probably so successful.
okay. All right. So I know just from talking with you over the last couple of days, you are an adventurer yourself. So, you've had an opportunity to live in the bush, as they would say.
Yeah.
So, how would you think that being in the bush has made you, more adapt to living in the city? Because that's got to be, two different things all the way around.
Uh, for me, I've always been a bit of an adventurer. I've never sort of seen the world as black and white. It's always been multicolored to me. So I have seized opportunities in my life. The time that you're referring to, which I don't mind sharing, is when my then partner and I lost our micro business empire. And it was during the GFC, so 2008, and the whole mini empire came crumbling down. And we ended up living in a tent for over a year with no power, no running water, on a plot of land. We actually took on a restaurant while we were living in the tent, but we'd been in the tent for a few months before we committed to that. It was an adventure. It was hard work. Like, let's be honest, it was hard work. It was pioneering. It gave me a newfound respect for different forms of hard work. It also heightened my levels of gratitude and appreciation. And that may sound corny, but it's not. Because even to this day, so you get up, for me, it's morning. It's 10 past 8 in the morning. So I don't get up and flick the switch of the kettle and take it for granted. When I got up in the tent, I'd have to go and get the water, put the water on the fire, well, make sure the fire was still stoked and going all through the night to keep the wild animals away, because we lived in an area where there were packs of wild dingoes, which were quite aggressive and would come down to the campsite. We did have wild pigs. We did have a variety of lethal snakes. And the region that we were in, the area that we were in, was known for rogue crocodiles. So we also had to be mindful of checking the creek that we used all the time for bathing, water that we'd filter, for washing in, all of that. So we had to make sure that we didn't have any visitors that used to come and sit in the creek waiting for us to come in as entree. So I used to say to my then partner, everybody needs to be plucked out of the city and put in this environment for at least a month, because it would take them a week of probably whinging and going through transformation, and then another week to start feeling like they had some semblance of a routine, because you've got to collect the firewood, you've got to sharpen the chainsaw, you've got to do all of that. There's nobody else there to do it for you. You have to get up, stand up, take action and make it happen. by the third week, people would start to, I feel, my perception is that people would start to feel that they would appreciate nature. They would start to get into a bit more of a rhythm with nature. They would detoxify from social media and everything else, that fast pace around us. And they would start to actually feel more connected with the rhythm of life, really, and appreciating the simple things again. And I don't mean this to sound sexist in any way, because I'm not here to strip down all the work that women have done over the years. I'm simply going to say, from my perspective, one of the greatest therapeutic moments I had connecting with nature was I would put my washing in a big tub. And this is going to sound like something out of a Western movie. I'd hoik the skirt up and tuck it underneath, my hips, and the blouse would be unbuttoned down to here. And I'd just go and sit down on the side of the creek, and I would hand wash in the bowl, not the creek, because we didn't want to pollute the creek. I would hand wash in the bowl and just sit there with nature, and I'd just be scrubbing away. And there was something amazingly therapeutic and rewarding about that.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, the same with getting up really early and making bread or whatever we needed for the day. I did really feel like I'd been transported back in time to a pioneering woman, however you view a pioneering woman. But we didn't have, many luxuries. We certainly had more than they did from, years gone by. We would watch movies under the stars by putting a movie into the laptop, in those days, a CD disc into the laptop, and then plugging it into the back of the car and the 12-volt battery. And then we'd buy a cheap little speaker from like a $2 store, run the audio through the speaker, sit on 2 camping chairs under the stars, and that's how we'd watch a movie.
Yeah. Cortez Max says, "Hello, Miss Karen Lyons." He's shouting you out. So let me ask you
I
this.
love you, Cortez.
Yeah,
Cool dude. Cool cat. Cool cat.
yeah. So my question would be, so there are areas where you can live, like is it like public land or campgrounds, or what kind of area was that you were allowed to
Well,
live there? Yeah.
okay, that was 16 acres that we actually ended up purchasing. We had enough money left over to buy the land. Now, normally, I can't speak for the other states in Australia, but in Queensland, which is where I live, normally you can't legally live in a tent on your land.
Okay.
However, the local council gave us a special dispensation because we were looking at running their restaurant.
Okay.
And they knew that we were hoping to build a shed, just a shed home. I don't know if you have them in the States, but it's basically a shed that you then transform into what we call a 1A class dwelling, which means it gets upgraded to a house. So there's certain things you need to do to the shed to make it more, house-like. And in the area that we lived, we built it to a Cyclone 5 rating because we have cyclones, which is like hurricanes for you guys. So it's a cyclone
Mm-hmm.
area. So legally, you only have to build to a Category 3 rating, but we always built to a Category 5. So they sort of turned a blind eye and let us live there. And then eventually we took on the restaurant.
Okay.
Having said that, you can actually live in caravan parks, and there are places set aside, and there are more people who are, it's a bit like the tiny house movement. There are more people who are allowing people to live on their land if they've got a lot of land, like not in a built-up city area, but if they've got a lot of land and if they can provide amenities, then there are people who are prepared to go and rent on those places quite cheaply and be back, with nature.
Okay. So now, how would you say that entire adventure would equate to, like, say, living in a big city, skyscrapers, things of that nature? Because I know once you transformed into that, then you had to
Mm.
transform back into, like, knowing how to get out of a car's way when he's blowing the horn. Because I mean, if he's coming at 30 miles an hour, he ain't about to slow down. So was it?
I I didn't have too much of I didn't have too much trouble transforming.
Mm-hmm.
I initially, it was a sensory overload. And I think if anyone's actually ever spent any time away at a retreat or meditating or just, like we were on the land, whenever we were back in the big smoke, as you'd call it, it was initially just sensory overload. Like you noticed how busy people were, you noticed how disconnected people were, you noticed the multitude of bright lights and the constant barrage of advertising to buy this, the commercialism, you could really see the manipulation in the advertising too. So those things became really evident. It took a while to readjust to that, because it was almost like I wanted to just sort of someone to put a mask on me and just go, just lead me through. I don't want to visually see anything. It's just overwhelming for me. But it didn't take that long to readjust. And I, went from there to a beautiful larger town, but not like New York or Sydney. And then from there, I actually moved to Melbourne, which is, oh no, don't quote me. I think Sydney's still our biggest city in Australia, and then Melbourne is the second biggest city. So then I moved to Melbourne to study for a time. So I did literally go from one extreme to the other. Concrete jungle, mad peak hour traffic, all of that.
Okay. All right. And during that time of transforming back into city life is when you picked up your new profession now, which is mentoring and counseling.
And a life coaching and empowering people generally, women particularly. I definitely see there's a need there for men as well, and I will, from my perspective, I feel that it's advantageous for a man to empower a man. However, my contribution to that is I would like women to see where they're contributing to uplifting or not uplifting the men of this world, where they need to own the part that they've played in a modern society by being so masculine all the time. It doesn't mean that, they don't need to tap into that masculinity for work occasionally or for survival purposes or to take care of their 3 children or whatever it might be. However, women get lost in there and they forget how to sit back in their feminine. And I think that balance is really important. And unfortunately, if we can't find a balance in that, then as a byproduct, we throw that balance out in the men that are in our inner sanctum.
Yeah. So, Don, do you have a large client base, 100, 200 people? What would you say your client base is?
I wouldn't say my client base was that big at this point in time, although it's building rapidly, and I'm about to, in the next couple of months, I'll say unleash, because it will be called Unleash Your Lioness. I'm going to unleash a new program that I will saturate across social media, which is predominantly for women. So it'll be interesting to see how my client base, grows from that point on. And I'm in another state of transformation, because I've realized, as anyone that does anything working with people one-on-one is not sustainable. I wish to work towards working one-to-many. That's where my happy place is. It's a win-win for me. It's a win-win for other people. It's great for the ecology. So, that's ultimately what I'm stepping into. That, doing my own podcasts with my girlfriend Janelle, again targeting, Janelle, again targeting, women over 40, because there's a great need for encouragement of sensuality and confidence for women over 40. Initially, we were targeting women over 50. However, once we started researching and actually having conversations with women, we realized that, we had women who were 45 going, hey, what about me? And then women who were 40 going, hey, what about me? And we just decided to stop it there rather than dropping it down to 35, because realistically, any woman of any age can, join us if they want to learn more about their own sensuality and their own self-worth and confidence, which can get lost for a multitude of reasons as we age.
Yeah. So, after you get through fixing them up, you can send them to the United States for us to mess them up again.
No, that is not the plan, Dr. Ron. That is not the plan. By all means, as soon as they can travel, if they want to go to the States and they want to go to Chicago, they can.
Yeah.
You start them up, and let me tell you, I'm going to start slapping you around.
Hey, look, I'm gonna give them a whole new chapter, baby. I'm gonna fix them up. Take advantage of all the good work that you've done, and then all of a sudden they're gonna need therapy again. So it's a repeat business. We've got a
That is
comment.
not the kind of repeat business that I want.
We've got a comment from Jed. He says, "My cousin lives in Melbourne, an expat
Mm-hmm.
from West Coast. She says great botanical gardens there. She told me
Yes.
about how goofy your premiere is. Speaking of toxic masculinity."
How goofy. What is it? How goofy?
Right. She said she told me about how goofy your premiere is. Speaking of toxic masculinity. Okay. I'm a little bewildered over that one, but we got the cousin part from Melbourne, okay? You know,
I was going to say, can we have some clarity on that, because I'm
yeah.
not quite sure exactly what she means. The botanical gardens are amazing. Yes, in Melbourne they're beautiful. Can she just tap away,
Yeah,
add
yeah,
some
yeah, yeah,
clarity?
yeah. Give us some clarity on that. You know,
Yeah,
but yeah, I would that's how we all came together, all of us being motivational and inspirational speakers. And I think some of our topics dealt with male and female interaction and relationship. And
yeah,
and even in that platform that we were on, we came up to the conclusion that they got people messed up playing the wrong roles in a lot of places, either in your continent, my continent. And sometimes people they don't know where to seek help or advice because the places that they're getting their advice or their information from has a tendency to create an endless loop of the same results. And
yeah,
sometimes you have to do something different in order to get different results. Otherwise, they call that insanity, I believe. If you keep doing the same thing over again expecting a different result, it's not going to happen. you know
yeah,
so I applaud the idea that you are mentoring and you and Janelle are coming together to do some things, and you have to come back and once you guys get your thing up and going, and we would love to promote it over here in the United States, because you will find out the universal language of the world is something that we all can relate to. If you say the word help, then people know that they need help. They're going to reach after that help wherever they can get it from, you know. And I know you've had the honor and the privilege of living in the States and living in the Caribbean. So when you say help, no matter where you've been, they understood, oh, that's help. We're going to go get that. If you're
yeah.
in need of, you're going to reach out to it. You're going to surround yourself by what you need, support groups or whatever you may need, 12-step program on how to deal with men, whatever. It makes no difference. And sometimes it may not take all 12 steps. Okay, here we go. His response to the covert spawned a parody song. What's important is keeping the pubs open and beers. Supposedly, a staff member and a politician caused one of the lockdowns, but that was someone. Okay, let me see. I'm trying to get the rest of this here. But that was someone else. Sorry, I was vague. Love the accent. BTW. Okay. All right. We got some clarity to that. Yeah.
Do you mean Dr. Ron's accent or mine?
Right.
I
So
have an accent.
so question. That's a good point. What is the status in Australia now around covert?
Okay, well, as far as the very latest updates, I don't have that information because I purposely haven't actually watched the news for the last probably 5 days. Generally, we as a whole, compared to, say, the States, have been so fortunate. And irrespective of your political views or which state you live in, because each state in Australia handled things differently,
Mm-hmm.
um, we still handled it fairly quickly. And, some people were happy about that, some people weren't. I'm not here to have a debate about, the political arena. However, the action that was taken, if you look at our country compared to other parts of the world, we're doing really, really well.
Good.
Now, I did hear that there was another cluster that was growing slowly or had been growing slowly, and I could be wrong, in Melbourne.
Mm-hmm.
And look, without a doubt, the people in Victoria, in Melbourne, have done it tough. Like I feel they've had the toughest run. I'm in Queensland. Besides maybe Tasmania, parts of WA, we've had a really cool, easy run. And we live in a very big state.
Mm-hmm.
So we've had the luxury of also being able to travel within our state. Yeah, I mean, I say to people up here in the Whitsundays, so you imagine that the capital of Queensland's state is in the southern area, and I live way up towards the top. And we've really been in quite a bubble up here. We're aware that COVID's been going on. We've had to wear masks as mandatory precautions a couple of times. We've had to, stay on lockdown at home, as the government has said, for whatever period of time. But really, it's been nothing. So the people in Victoria have done it the toughest. Generally, Australia has had a very fortunate hand compared to the rest of the world.
Okay,
Yeah.
that's good. So it's
And
not.
there's a lot of people selling and moving. There's a lot of people buying in Queensland. That's the thing that I notice now, having travelled up and down the Queensland coast for work and things. It's like the sales of houses, the amount of houses going up for sale and being snapped up really quickly. So there's a lot of people in southern states that are choosing to move to Queensland because obviously somewhere in their mind they feel it's going to be a safer option.
Gotcha. Well, here in the Chicagoland area, the weather has been extremely good. We've been 80 degrees, 90 degrees. People think that it's just a blank check to go out and just do anything they want to do based on the fact that they've had a vaccination and they feel like, if they catch it, they've got a good opportunity to survive it, and that's enough for them to go back out and get back out in the world. Now, me on the other hand, I don't feel that comfortable going out in the world. I live in a small suburban area of Chicago where I'm close to the Forest Preserve. So I am comfortable staying in my little cubby hole, hiding out until, we get an all clear. And we ain't got an all clear yet, and I'm
Mhm.
not anxious to run out there and catch something that I would be sorry for later. But go ahead.
So what are the stats? What are the stats? Do you know what the stats are like in Chicago at the moment?
We're at 2.7 as of today. As far as the numbers are going down, as far as the conditions, we've only had like 88 people to pass away since yesterday. I think there's still like 300 people or 800 people tested positive since yesterday and today. So the numbers are not zeroed out yet, but they are still a lot of cases. We're not 100,000 people dying a day now. That's a positive thing, but we
Mm,
were at one time. So
yeah,
yeah.
yeah.
Look, I need to do something, so I need you to stay right there. Don't go nowhere. Don't
Don't
don't don't
don't go nowhere.
yeah, don't start picking your nose or nothing because everybody gonna see it, okay? Let me get my announcement in. Normally every show that I do a shout out, and we kind of got into talking to you about what's going on. See how excited you got me. So I wanted to get to my announcements because I do not want to forget to do them. The first thing I want to do is give a shout out to all of our healthcare heroes that are around the world. You know, there are people that have been on the front line, keeping our loved ones healthy, getting them healthy and sending them back to us. You know, and these people have been, since this thing started, on the front line. And I tell you, I like to shout them out every chance I get. As a matter of fact, I wear this, doctor shirt each and every time I go live, in solidarity to all of the healthcare heroes that are out there. And I appreciate the work that they have done. And I just want to let them know I thank them. Keep up the good work, because I don't believe Corona's over with. I still believe that we're going to get another surge, in this thing, because we have different variants that are coming out, and this is not being dealt with. But people are still out there, and our healthcare heroes are definitely, need to be applauded for the work that they have done to keep our loved ones alive. Number two, shout out to all of the pastors that are on the front line, all of our spiritual leaders, all the people that have had the job of consoling us when we lose loved ones, because of the pandemic, we have not been able to celebrate our loved ones the way that we're used to celebrating them. So the pastors had the hard job of trying to keep family members together and holding them together and keeping them uplifted at a time like this. Special shout out to my mentor, Dr. Lloyd Michael Hunt. He has been each and every day coming forth, delivering words of inspiration about what has been going on throughout this entire pandemic and keeping us uplifted and aware of what's going on. So, a special shout out to him. I've been with him for over 30 years. I tell you, he is an inspiration and has been one for a long time in my life, as well as he and I are personal friends with one another. So, if you don't have someone that can encourage you or lift you up, I would encourage you to go check out Dr. Lloyd Michael Hunt. If you scroll down on my Facebook live feed, you will see some of his messages. And then you also can go over to my YouTube channel. I have a whole playlist totally devoted to some of his messages that go back for 30 years. And I tell you, it's a beautiful thing to be able to see something that's still relevant now from 30 years ago. So you
Mm.
say, well, how do we find your YouTube channel? Well, let me tell you. If you go over to ask-dr-ron.com, you scroll up to the top, you'll see all of my social media tablets. You'll see Instagram, Twitter, you'll see my YouTube channel. Just click on it. It'll take you right over to my YouTube channel. And you'll be able to scroll through and see some of my old shows. You'll be able to see a playlist devoted to Dr. Hunt, and you'll be able to listen to some of the messages and the inspiration that he has been giving for so long. Also, as you scroll down, you'll see some additional information, and you'll come to a place where you'll see my advertisers and vendors. So when you get there, you want to browse the vendors, check them out, click on the banners, click on the advertisement. It'll take you directly to their website. And without them, we would not be able to do what we do here. So we are so glad to have them, and we need you to support our vendors. If you have not done your taxes yet, we've got a tax preparer there. If you like wine and spirits from all over the world, we have Port Again Sam. If you're interested in putting websites together, we've got RRJ Web. So we have a large variety of vendors that are there, as well as our media affiliates that we work with. So please go through, take your time, browse the site, check out some of our vendors, and reach out to them. Tell them, hey, I need to do this, I need to do that, and they'll be more than happy to help you do what it is that you're interested in doing. So right now, I want to go over here and switch the page a little bit. And what we have here is some information about Miss Karen. Miss Karen's Facebook link. So I know people are wondering, with all these interesting things that Miss Karen has told us about, well, how would we catch up with her if we want to? This is
Thank
her Facebook link right here that's scrolling across the screen, and you'll be able to reach out to her on Facebook because she don't want y'all calling her long distance collect. You know, she is not going to answer the phone. I'm going to tell y'all now, you know, but, you know, she would love to help y'all get y'all mental faculty straight, you know, to the best of her ability. You know, she ain't gonna be able to smack y'all around. So, sometimes folks need
no.
just a good smack. You ever heard somebody tell you a story, Miss Karen, and all you say, I wish I could just smack the hell out of them and smack them back to their senses. I know that's child abuse, no matter what the age, whether it's senior abuse, whether it's you know
It's probably not a good thing to advertise, really.
hey, I just feel like sometimes a good smack will do a person some good. you know
Oh, no.
I know you probably afraid to say that or confess it, but I ain't got no problem telling the truth. I'm like, look, and sometimes I'll stop a person. Do you hear yourself? Do you hear the words that are coming out of your mouth? Why are you even thinking like that? You need to stop thinking like that, and
I
then
was
and
gonna say,
go ahead.
I was going to say, it's not, I don't have the desire to slap someone or smack them across the head. So, and I have no problem being honest about this. There are times where I think, hang on a second, let's review this. And I might say something like, well, perhaps
Oh,
we can reword that, or you might like to think about that in a different light. But no, I don't know that smacking people across the head is actually the most successful tool. And I think history has proven that.
well, I have to say this. I grew up in a child abuse environment. Okay, it was so funny. I was in New Orleans and I was in this convention, and they gave the definition of child abuse. And then, I had a light bulb moment. I was child abused when I was growing up. So I called my mom, that evening once I left the convention. And I said, I was child abused according to the definition of child abuse. She said, so. And she just left it right there. I think it turned out okay. And I didn't call her no more after that. I left her alone. But I understand.
I just feel like everybody's had a moment or two like that. I mean, I remember being somewhere where I heard something, and I did actually speak to my eldest son, and I said, "Hey, there's this particular incident where hey, I might have kind of taken it a little bit too far, and I'd like to apologise to you now as a grown man." And he just said to me, first of all, Ma, I don't actually even remember that,
Right.
and secondly, I was such a little beep that I probably deserved it. And I was like, I know that to say someone deserves something is also not socially
Uh-huh.
acceptable these days. However, that was the way he honestly answered. And I found it amusing that this particular incident had been playing on my mind and my emotions for clearly years, and he couldn't even remember it.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah, yeah.
hey,
Well,
perception, right? So
look.
individual.
I didn't know I was child abused until they told me. Okay, I just thought it was just growing up in the city, and that was it. But after I heard that definition, I was like, you know what? I think she did hit me with a lamp one time, or something of that nature. So I'm like, wow. Let me
The
go.
wooden spoon.
No, that
Yeah.
that 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 no, no, no.
No,
When I say
no.
child abuse, I mean child abuse. I was a child and I was abused, but that's
Yeah,
okay. I
yeah.
survived. Okay. But when I say smack somebody, I don't literally, I just want to, bring them back to reality, to the
Okay.
point, where they, that's not reality. You need to stop. That's, where do they do this at? Where did you get this from? Because it's not something that's going to be um advantageous for you to have these type of thoughts continuously when you're trying to achieve mental positive state of mind. So figuratively speaking, I guess it would be equivalent to a smack. Like,
Yeah.
wake the hell up, you're dreaming. Who does that? you know
Well, I think, you of all people would understand that a lot of those patterns that people have are
hmm
learnt behavioural patterns from their mentor, their parents, their older sibling, whoever, auntie, uncle, whoever's been the dominant force in their young life. So they're simply, repeating a pattern. It's about breaking the pattern, but they're invested in the pattern because they believe it's their own. They don't realise that they've actually adopted it from elsewhere, that it wasn't an original thought process.
right. Yeah.
Yeah.
you know so now that we're talking about the way that you help people, and we've mentioned it a little bit.
Would
uh
you like me to talk about your life? Let's
uh-oh
talk about your let's talk
uh-oh
about your potholes.
all right, come on with it. I ain't scared of you.
Right.
Come on.
You don't have to be scared of me. I'm gentle.
So,
I'm gentle and
so,
I'm
so,
firm.
so the lady in Australia says that now. Now, if I start crying, y'all, I'm cutting this show off. Come on with it. I
Well,
ain't scared. Come on.
before we went live, we were chatting, and I asked you if many people knew. I suspected you had had a very colourful life, and I asked if
hmm
many people actually were aware of that. You said some, not that many. I don't mean that you need to divulge any enormous amount of detail, and I know you wouldn't if you didn't want to. You referred to them as potholes, that you'd had a lot of potholes in your life.
Right.
Would you like to, seeing as I'm guest co-hosting, as the guest co-host, I'd just like to ask you a couple of questions, if that's okay with you.
Go right ahead.
So, would you like to share some of those colourful potholes so that we have a greater understanding of you and why it is that you do what you do and where you come from and what's inspired you to actually be the person that you are today, offering so much value and help and inspiration to others?
Woo, that's a mouthful right there.
I
Uh,
know, right?
yeah.
Woo,
Wow.
woo.
Um, I guess, being a person that I would say that has lived outside of the box most of my life. My mom identified me as a young person that would, if there's a line that we say on this side of the line is where you're supposed to stay, and on the other side of the line you're not supposed to cross over. She said I would be the person that would go all the way up to the line and eventually cross over and go back and forth. I would live on the edge always.
Okay.
And that was I would have to say a very accurate depiction of the way I embraced adventure or embrace things that you don't always know what the outcome is going to be. And then, I would feel like you don't have to know. If it's an adventure, and some things work out good, some things don't work out good, but you still you take the trip. And then when you go across into the darkness and there's no light, sometimes you can get caught up in some things that you're not supposed to be caught up in. It's not intended, to live in those places. But once you realize, okay, I got to get back over here on the other side, then you do that. And I'm speaking vaguely, without giving up any
Mm.
particular details. But through the course of my life, I have used those adventures, I'll use, say, as learning experience to be able to try and tell people, well, look, you don't have to do this, because I can tell you from experience, this is going to happen if you do it, and it's not going to be a positive or a good thing. So if you're looking to try and build and rebuild yourself, then you want to try and have more positive influential things happening for you so that you don't have to, um, let me say it like this. This is another way of putting it. I used to have a mentor when I was a young man, and he used to tell me that the this thing, the path of life, is well worn, but each step you take is a new one. So there's some things that you have not experienced in life yet because you haven't got on the path where it would happen to you or you would be exposed to it. So there's some things that I have experienced already that I can tell you, okay, look, you don't want to go down that path because this is where it's going to wind up. Now, if you choose to still go, you've been warned, that this is not going to be a positive adventure for yourself. You need to think this through a little bit more and maybe stay away from the hazards that exist. It's just
Did you have anyone to actually say that to you? Did anyone at any point ever say that to you before you walked down one of those paths?
no, most of my adventures were always, hey, I'm in it now, so I might as well see what happens next. And as long as, like we used to say back in the day, if it don't kill you, it can only make you stronger. So
So, what was one of the adventures that you were able to turn around, and what did you create as a positive from a particular adventure?
ooh, wow.
Can you give one example?
Um One example. Okay, here's one. When I was a young man, I experimented with drugs, serious drugs like crack cocaine. There was an epic epidemic in the community back in 1985, and when I first got involved with it, it was for economic purposes. It was all about a hustle, all about making money. So, not having any fear, being from Chicago, living in New Orleans, being an entrepreneur, I got involved in it. And eventually, what happened was I became my own best customer. So now I
Mm.
was no longer in business doing this thing. I was, doing it just to support my own habits. And I went from having two drug houses to having none. So when I look back over my life and I see those experiences as something that could have easily been avoided by not taking the first step down that road. I have seen firsthand the um, the terrible things that happen to families and to people that get involved in those type of situations and scenarios. And I'm talking about not just street corner people, I'm talking about business people. I'm talking about people that had a lot to lose, including myself. I had a lot to lose, and I did lose a lot. So when I look and I talk to people and I counsel people about um you know when you decide that you are sick and tired of being sick and tired and you want to make a change for your life, there is help available for you to help you overcome, because you can't do this by yourself. Nobody can.
Mm.
No man has ever been able to overcome uh such a demon. I call it a demon, okay? Because it's a demon that's so powerful it consumes you. I can remember, some of the horror stories of being up all night long with my last $20 trying to get high, and I can't get no higher than what I'd already been for the last 2 days. Okay, now
Yeah.
I've been up 2 days getting high, and I'm still trying to get higher, and it's not going to happen. Okay, so I've
Yeah.
walked in those shoes. Like I said, it's a pothole. I fell into that pothole, and I had to pull myself out of that pothole in order to be able to overcome. So, like, sometimes people would look at me and say, well, you can't help me. You don't even know nothing about that. You have some of the, people that cannot look at you and tell what your history is. So when I say something like that, that by the grace of God that I was able to overcome, because it was not me, but the grace of God that had led me to find a recovery and a deliverance so that now I can stand on my own 2 feet and look at people and say, look, what do you need? What can I do to help you? I'm not going to buy you no crack. Okay. My
Mm,
dad was a person that passed away from his experiences dealing with crack. He
mm,
kept on doing it until it killed him. You know, so when I look
yeah.
at people, I know the worst case scenario that it can lead to. You can do this until you ain't here no more, or you can, do this and make a turnaround where you can get some help and survive this thing. Because if I'm a survivor, you can be a survivor. So,
Mm,
that's kind of I used to tell my dad, I said, man, you need to quit this thing, man. My father died at 63 years old. So
yeah. Wow.
yeah, so it's so amazing that I made it to 63. I'll be 64 this year because I saw what happened to him and he passed away. He was up all night smoking crack. His doctor had told him to stop drinking, stop smoking crack, stop smoking cigarettes, stop doing everything if you want to live. Well, he didn't. Well, the
Yeah.
doctor told the truth. So his heart blew up. Okay.
Yeah.
And I was like, man, you didn't have to go, like that. All you had to do was want to live and you still be here. So uh
And I mean, I hear you. I can't, I've never been a crack addict, so I can't weigh in on that only purely because I don't have that experience. I think it would be just not right of me to, to weigh in on that. But I listen to your story about your dad and think, he was dealing clearly with multiple demons. And obviously, he was just so deeply entrenched or invested in them that it was for him, it felt impossible to actually climb out of that pothole because by that stage, it was probably a crevasse.
yeah. And he would lie to himself quite often. He was like, man, I can quit anytime I want to. I know you can't, because if
Yeah.
you could, you would, you know, because nobody wants to commit suicide on purpose. Okay. Everybody feels like they got time. Okay.
Yeah.
I got time. I got time. Or I can quit whenever I get ready. No, you can't. This demon is bigger than you and anybody that's ever got a hold to it. So,
Yeah.
and if you don't understand it and call it what it is and approach it from the perspective that you need the weapons and the tools to overcome this thing, then you're not going to survive this thing. And there's too many horror stories out there of people that have wrestled and lost, so.
So I think people say that they can quit because it makes them feel like they've got some semblance of control, or it gives them some type of hope, even though it's completely false hope. I mean, it's a lie. But do you, I'm saying this because I look at my own father, and he was an alcoholic and chronic drinker, chronic smoker. So interesting that we have this conversation,
Hmm.
projection. Um, and he refused to see a doctor a day in his life. And he passed away when he was 51. And
Hmm.
I'm like, I'm way past that. And I think, wow, my dad was already dead. Like, it spins me out. Um, and I didn't ever hear him say, like, I could give up if I wanted to. But his essence, his energy always projected that as if it's no
I
big deal. I
Right,
just
yeah,
enjoy it.
yeah. I
I
got I
got this.
got this under
I
control.
got
Don't worry about me.
yeah,
Look, when
yeah,
I turned 63, I was so happy. I was like, yes, I made it. I'm still here. Because of course I was not doing the things that he was doing, and
yeah,
I take the precautions and the steps to be here, to continue to be here, and that's
yeah,
what's important. You have to want to be here and take steps to continue to want to be here. Otherwise, you can't win. You set yourself up, for a
mm.
disaster that you can't survive. So um
So how many people do you feel I don't need like particular numbers. I'm just saying, how many people do you feel that you've helped, or do you know that you've helped,
Um,
directly or indirectly?
well, it's a few. I remember one lady in particular. Um, she was, every time she got a paycheck, she would go out and spend her entire paycheck on getting high.
Yeah,
And
wow.
one particular occasion, I ran across her and I said, "You know what? I can't watch you do this." So I took her by the hand and I told the drug, because I caught her in the middle of a drug transaction, and I told the drug dealer, I said, "You're gonna have to leave here, or otherwise, I'm finna call the police and you going to jail." So quite naturally, he sped off in a hurry, looking at me like I had lost my mind. But I had lost my mind at that moment. I was willing to face a dangerous situation in order to try and help this woman save her life. And I told her, I said, "Either you're going to go with me and we're going to make an attempt to try and help yourself, or you going to the police station and I'm gonna turn you in because you're a mother of three children. You got a daughter at home, 10, 11, 12 years old, and you're not doing her no good. She's watching you destroy yourself. Okay. So you're gonna have to make a decision right now that you're gonna have to turn this thing around." And I put her in a residential drug facility for about 3 or 4 months, and she was able to learn the steps that they teach you in a residential facility to try to want to overcome whatever your addiction is. And she thanked me, and I'm sure she probably fell off the wagon a few times, but it was an attempt to try and help you get on solid ground, because when you're drowning in quicksand, you don't have any solid ground to grab hold to. You're still sinking, you're still drowning. So you gotta,
Yeah.
sometimes it takes a person to take a firm hand, to help you walk you through the door where you can get help. And that's kind of one for sure that I can remember. And there's others, people that I've helped with situations and scenarios. But for the most part, due to confidentiality reasons, I cannot disclose these information. you know, I have to respect people's stories, to the point where I can't really, go into too many scenarios. But
Oh, and
yeah,
I appreciate that. Absolutely. It's
yeah,
not your story to tell. I
right,
get that.
right,
I,
right,
I understand that. Total respect there.
yeah,
Um, Thank you. Thank you so much for sharing all of that, because I love that authenticity. I love the fact that, everybody has a story to tell, every single person on the planet. And my personal belief is that when people share their story or part thereof of their story, it helps the rest of us connect more deeply to each other, rather than the fluffy and superficial stuff is great.
right,
And the humor, the fun is awesome. And the cheekiness is just, sensational. The depth of connection shows us that as humans, we're still so interwoven, that we're all so similar. And, I love that. I love it when we own our stuff and talk openly about it.
yeah, yeah.
And something else I wanted to touch on, if you don't mind.
Well, we got the hours up. We've killed the
Oh,
whole hour already. I
oh,
mean, I know you had another appointment coming up, don't you? Okay, we'll go
I
another
do,
10. We can go over another
but
10 minutes. We can do another 10
all
minutes.
right,
Come
all
on, we
right,
can do it.
all right. So again, for anyone who's watching, we were chatting before we went live, and I'll only speak for myself here, Dr. Ron. So we were talking about loss, and I've lost a son. I had a son who died.
Hmm.
My second son. I have 4 children, and it was my second son who passed away. People often ask me how I dealt with that, or deal with that, both. And one of the greatest golden nuggets, I'm going to call it, like panning for gold, one of the greatest golden nuggets that I've received from that, or that I've realized about that, is prior to his death, I know some people might find this a bit hard to imagine, but I wasn't really a very compassionate person. I was quite tough. I'd had, a pretty tough, earthy childhood. I'd been out really young. I had my first child when I was 15. I'd taken myself back to school. I was gritty. I knew how to be gritty. I knew how to stand up for myself. I knew how to rise. And I knew how to love in a certain capacity, but I didn't know how to love on some levels, and I certainly didn't know compassion. So when my son passed away, one of the greatest lessons that he gave me in that process was compassion, which happened almost immediately, and relatability. There were so many people, irrespective of age, irrespective of walks of life. I suddenly could relate to so many people, and I will always, always be grateful for that massive lesson of compassion from him.
Yeah, and I can understand that. I lost a son as well, about 10 years ago now, and I was so looking forward to being able to impart into him tools and gifts that he would be able to use during the course of his life, to be successful and go through life. Now, I still have a son. I had four children altogether. I lost my oldest son, and I still have a young son who's 29 years old now. And I still reach out to him to make sure that I give him something, because he's a father now, that can help him along the way, because, it is our responsibility as the elders or the older people in people's life to try and give them things that they can use. Now, they may not comprehend it right away, but eventually it'll snap, say, aha, I remember now, when he told me this, when he told me that. It was a great joy when my son was 17 years old. I used to tell him a lot of stuff that he couldn't understand, and not capable of understanding. And then probably about 5 or 6 years later, he came back to me and he said, "Man, I get it. I understand everything that you were trying to teach me. How to cook for yourself, how to clean for yourself, how to do laundry, how to go grocery shopping." Funny story. My son, um, he got this thing about steak. Okay, and when he came to me, he didn't know anything about steak. Okay, nothing. He didn't know nothing. So we would go to the grocery store and we'd go in the steak section, and it would be sirloin, all the different grades of steak. So his determining factor on what type of steak to get was the quantity in the package for the amount of money. 17 years old. Okay, what do you expect? So he's sitting there buying round steak. Now I don't know if you understand what grade it is. That
Yeah.
it's as tough as shoe leather. Okay, and he only had one temperature when he was cooking: high heat. Okay, so now he's in the kitchen cooking a round steak, and he's got a bottle of A1 sauce, and he's sitting here looking forward to, I got steak, you know? And I'm like, son, let me help you. Now, I don't eat meat. I see, first of all, the greatest steak that you got to tenderize it. You got to poke something into this thing so that it doesn't draw up into a shoe leather, and you're sitting there chewing for a whole day trying to get this thing down. But he finally learned the lesson, of getting a better grade, and you can enjoy it better. So he finally got it eventually. It was so funny. He was living in Nashville, and he said he got his own link card. And when he got his link card, he went to the store and he bought steak. Now, he didn't even have a kitchen in the little sleeping room that he was in. They had a little kerosene heater. Okay. So now he's cooking this steak on a kerosene heater in his room, right? I said to myself, that's got to be the most nastiest piece of meat that he ever ate. But he was so proud of himself that he was able to put that whole endeavor together. He had the skill set to do it. So it was an accomplishment on me. I say it can't do nothing but get better from here, So I talked to him a couple of weeks ago, and he was on the Barbie, okay, out back on a kettle grill or whatever, and he was cooking steaks and chickens and doing it proudly, okay.
That's a vast improvement from a kerosene heater.
So he got it. He got it. He got it. He definitely got it. You know, Miss Karen, I thank you for coming on the show. It has been such a blessed show. Um, Look, you guys that are tuned in and just tuning in, thank you for coming by. I see quite a few people that are just now stopping in. We getting out of here. We've been on the air for over an hour, but you can catch the replay. You can also go over to ask-dr-ron.com. Scroll up to the top. You'll find the YouTube button. Go to the YouTube channel. You'll be able to see this show posted in probably about an hour from now. I will repost this on the YouTube channel under the playlist for today. You'll be able to see it. You can watch it as many times as you want. Subscribe. Please scroll down. Support our vendors and our advertisers. We need your support. We really need your support. Um, I really want you guys to support them because they make it possible for us to do what we got. And I'm trying to save up enough to go over there and check out this tropical paradise in Australia. So, maybe we can get a whole tour together, and take a
we
group of
can
people over
we
there.
can do a we can do a podcast from one of the
There
islands.
you go. There you go. We
Yeah.
can do it.
I live in a place with 74 islands.
Yes, yes, we can do it. I ain't scared. I'm not scared of crocodiles or none of that other, any
Oh
wide,
no, the crocs the
wide,
crocs are not everywhere.
wide variety of dangerous indigenous species that live over there. I'm not scared. My brother in broadcasting, Mr. Chris Basie says, hello, good show, Miss Karen and Dr. Ron. He's been watching us, so thank you for tuning in. We're gonna get out of here. We are over time.
Can
You
can
know,
I please
yeah,
say a quick thank you,
wait
not
a
only
minute,
to you.
wait a minute. Let me finish now. Let me finish. You jumping the gun. You
All right,
know.
all right.
All right, Miss Karen, what would you like to leave with the people before we get out of here? Now you get your turn.
Thank you kindly, sir. I wanted to I wanted to thank you very much for having me. I also wanted to thank Miss Fiona for allowing me to sit in her amazing chair, and also I wish her and her family love and healing and blessings. And for anyone out there that wants to know more about this Aussie chick and what she does, you can find me on my Facebook page,
There you go.
which Dr. Ron is going to put up, aren't you, Dr.
It's
Ron?
already up. It's scrolling. It's been
Oh,
scrolling the
there you
whole
go.
time.
Boom.
It's been scrolling the
Boom.
whole time. Facebook.com at Karen.Lyons.5439087. That is not her phone number, y'all. I just want y'all to know that. So if you dial that number as a phone number, you just gonna have to send her an inbox and get
That's
her the
it.
old fashioned way, and she will respond. Might take her a
I
day
will.
because she's early in the morning over there and we're late in the
True that.
evening. So you got to give her
Yeah.
time to get back to you. So anything
Yeah.
else you want to leave with the people, Miss Karen?
It's been great. I love the honest conversations, and I hope everybody else enjoyed your honesty, my honesty, and our interaction. Perfect. Thank you.
Thank you for coming. Once again, I can't thank you enough. So we're going to get out of here, folks. Let me
Yeah.
flip over to here right quick. You see the information to make donations. All my places are there where you can make contributions to help support what we're doing here. Please make contributions. We will use your money for a good use. I promise you we will. So look forward to seeing you guys on Sunday when we do our Black History Moment. Miss Fiona should be back with us by then, and we're looking so forward to having her back. and sharing with us on Sunday. So you guys, please be safe. And I hope we said something that was an inspiration to you on today, and look forward to seeing you again real soon.